Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Mads, and today I'm going to be talking about my very first experience at a book convention. Obviously there are some really famous book conventions on BookTube like BEA and BookCon, and I've never been to those. My friend messaged me on Instagram and she was like, hey, there's this huge book festival in North Texas, and it was like 30 or 40 minutes down the road from me, and I was like, I'm going. So my best friend and I got in the car, left at the butt crack of dawn, and drove out to the book convention. There were some really big authors there. We got some books signed, we got to go see some panels, and it was a really exciting experience. So I want to talk about some of the things that happened that day that were just really cool, and then I want to do like a mini book haul where I talk about the books that I got at the convention, but also some of the books that I got signed and author stories and whatnot. I'm just really excited for. So yeah. So the first thing I noticed when we got there was like how insanely busy it was. The convention's, like I said, was like 30-40 minutes away from my house, and I have never, like I said, never been to a convention before, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and I'd never heard of this one. I think they said, I don't know how many people were there this year, but last year they said there were like 10,000 people, and it's in this like, it's like 3 or 4 floors, but it's like one contained space in a convention center. It was really small. So there was a lot of people cram-packed in this tiny little space. I got there, we left the house I think at like 6:50, and we had packed it the night before. We got there at like 7:30, and they had 3 or 4 of these beastly long lines. Like they were absolutely insanely long lines, and we were like, what the heck? And we start looking, and to get, Cassandra Clare was there, Leigh Bardugo was there, and to get into their signing lines you had to have a wristband because there's just so many people. So we go ahead, we get in the Cassandra Clare signing line because they weren't like super well marked, so I kind of thought that Cassandra Clare and Leigh Bardugo's wristbands are in the same line, which wasn't the case. And it's really good that we got there when we did. It was like 7:30, and the festival started at 9:30, I think. And if we had been 5 minutes later, we would have missed Cassandra Clare's wristbands. Like they ran out. My friend Mindy went and got in Leigh Bardugo's line because she's never read a Cassandra Clare book. She didn't really need a wristband, but I wanted to meet her. Obviously, I've never gotten to meet Cassandra Clare, and so I stayed in that line. I got out of the line, I got my wristband, and I went in Leigh Bardugo's line. 3 or 4 minutes later, they were like, sorry, we're out, and this whole like line just like shoots over into Leigh Bardugo since we had a good space there. So it was really lucky that we left when we did, because I was not sure what to expect, but I was kind of neurotic about it. I was like, no, we're gonna be like, we are going to be there on time. Like, got us out the door. So then we go in, and they had like a Barnes & Noble set up in one of the downstairs rooms. They had booths that weren't open yet because technically nothing opened until like 9:30 after the opening ceremonies. So we just like browsed the Barnes & Noble. It was really cool. Most of the books there were already signed so that they wouldn't have to autograph the books. You could just give it to them and they could personalize it. So that was really neat. I thought that was a really good idea just to have the pre-signed copies and make everything go faster. I got a couple of books. I got 2 of my own, and then I got a couple for friends. After that, we got in a couple of ARC lines, so we got to go to a few ARCs. I had been like crazy planning in class the day before, going through like every single panel, like which were my favorite authors going to be and stuff like that. So the very first panel that we went to, oh, do I have the booklet? I had a little booklet with the names of the panels. I have no idea where that is. Oops. Well, okay, so it was a panel. It had Sabata here, it had Leigh Bardugo, it had Cindy Williams-Chima, it had Clare Legrand, who's the author of a book called Reborn that's coming out soon, and a couple of others. It had Sarah Reese Brennan, and I feel like there was one more person on, see, this is why I wanted the booklet. I feel like there was one more person on the panel. Either way, they were all in the panel together, and they were talking about fantasy. I think it was on world building actually, and they did really interesting things talking about like making a money system, or like what food do they eat, like really talked about aspects that help flesh out world building. And obviously like Sabata here, Leigh Bardugo, Cindy Williams-Chima, they're all queens of world building, so it was really interesting to hear their perspectives on things. Like those are things that I had never considered to think about in detail. Obviously like when food or economy is described, I'm like, oh, neat, and it does make it feel more real, but it's not something I was ever really conscious of until then. They were talking about just how you show culture, and that was really interesting. And then right after that was a panel with Leigh Bardugo and Cassandra Clare. That was going to be like 10 minutes after, and it was in the same ballroom. My friend and I were a little bit late to that panel because one of the arc lines ran long, but we thought, okay, we'll just move to the front of the room while everyone's clearing out, and we didn't realize that they needed everybody to leave before they could let people back in. So we like scoot up to the front of the room when everybody left. Maybe we were like 4 or 5 rows from the stage, and I looked to my right, and there's an Arc of Reborn just on the chair, and I was like, who left this? Why is this here? Like, is somebody gonna come back? Can I take this, you know? And my friend and I were both eyeing it, and this woman off to the right was like, oh, these were just on the chairs. I guess people just didn't want them and they left them. She's like, you can take it. We were like, oh my god. This book has been on my Amazon wish list for like, I don't know when I put it on my Amazon wish list, but it's been on that wish list for months and months and months. Like, I was dying to get my hands on this book. So I snatched that. There was another one like a couple of seats back, and my friend snatched that one, and we were like totally beside ourselves. And then this attendant came up and they were like, oh, you have to clear the room before you can come back in. And we were like, oh, okay, no problem, we'll just step out and whatever. And we get out of the room, and there's this like Leviathan line that was just so long, and we were like, oh my god, we're not even getting back into the ballroom. And then as it worked out, like it took so long for everybody to like file out and file back in, and we get back in, and there were not a lot of seats that were like 2 together, and so they were like, oh hey, just like go up here, and they put us the row of like reserved seats. There was like a couple not reserved ones on the second row, so we ended up second row to Leigh Bardugo and Cassandra Clare. They talked about how they met and like books of them that are upcoming and their inspiration for those things, which was really cool. The panel was supposed to be about folklore, and we didn't really touch on that one, but it was so interesting to hear about like how they came up with ideas for stories, and they were just talking about the books that they have that are upcoming, which both sound so cool. So different from both of them. Like Cassandra Clare's writing a high fantasy right now, and Leigh Bardugo's writing an urban fantasy. They're doing a switch. And the premises of these just sound so fantastic, so I'm definitely looking forward to those, even though they're far off in the future. So after lunch, there was not a lot of talks that looked like specifically really interesting to me, or they started a little too soon. Like, we needed to have that time to go get food, and we were not able to go into the discussion panels because we were late. And so we just sort of had some time to relax and veg. I had Cheetos for lunch because nothing at the concession stand like sounded appetizing to me. I don't know why. Like, they had hamburgers, but I was just like, no, I'm good, I'll just eat Cheetos, which came back to bite me in the butt later. So we just sort of like, we were like, okay, well, we'll just be early to this Holly Black panel because they had a panel about magic. It was like magic or witches or something, and it had Holly Black on it. I forget who else was on the panel because I was really excited about Holly Black. Oh, the girl who wrote The Astonishing Color of After, which I thought sounded cool, and then hearing her talk about it just made me like 8 times more excited. And we again ended up in the second row because the security guard was like, no, like it's gonna take up all this space, they're not gonna be able to like seat properly. So we were like, well, we'll just move up, you know. So we ended up in the author rows, and we were sitting behind Stephanie Garber, who wrote Caraval, and she like passed me on the thing, and I was like, I mean, she doesn't know who I am. We said hi. She was really nice, but I was just like, wow, I feel fancy, which is so dumb because I was just like, we didn't talk to them, but it was really cool. We got to sit in the fancy seats. So after that point, we were like, okay, we just need to like take a few minutes, and we wanted to go back up. The closing ceremony speech was by Cassandra Clare, and I was like, I really want to go see her talk again, like that would be really cool. And we thought about it for a second. We just saw like the sheer number of people that were going up. I think we had an hour until the author signing started. Like the closing keynote speech or whatever was at 3 p.m. and the author signing started at 3:30, and this was like 2:30, and there were so many people that were already in there, and we were just like, not gonna even try to get in to go see that. Like, that's gonna be just an absolute nightmare. So we ended up in the signing lines early, and she obviously didn't have a Cassandra Clare wristband, so I got in that line alone. You know, I figured that was gonna be the one that took the longest, and she went ahead and got in the Leigh Bardugo line. I sat for an hour behind these like middle school boys that were really obnoxious and kept bumping me, and I was Like, to get in Cassandra Clare's signing line, you have to have a wristband, but you also had to purchase either Lady Midnight, the 10th anniversary of City of Bones, or I think like the new paperback edition of City of Bones. Like, you had to purchase one of those three. So I got the 10th anniversary of City of Bones. I just restarted the book. I made it like 100 pages in before the line started moving. And that Cassandra Clare line went so fast. Like, they were so on top of it. I guess that they knew that like there was no way that they were gonna get through everybody, so they were really quick. They took pictures of me while she was signing my book. They're all blurry, but it's fine. And then I went and I wanted to get in Leigh Bardugo's line, and my friend Mindy was like closer in the line than I was to meeting Leigh Bardugo than I was to meeting Cassandra Clare, and she said that like the line just wasn't moving at all. Like, they were just holding conversations with Leigh Bardugo, and so I was like, I could get in that signing line, or I could go get in Sabaa Tahir's. I brought Sabaa Tahir's, both of her books from home, An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night, and I decided, okay, I'm going to prioritize Sabaa Tahir. Mindy took my book that I wanted to get signed, and she got that signed for me, and I went and got in Sabaa Tahir's line, and I almost didn't get to because the line was full and it closed right before I got there, and then the guard like let me scoot in. And she was so sweet. Meeting her was actually pretty emotional. Like, she writes one of my favorite young adult series of all time. Like, An Ember in the Ashes is such a good book. I love those two books. A Torch Against the Night was not only my first ever book review on YouTube, but it was the first video I ever posted on this channel, and when I got home I tried to rewatch it and cringed really hard, but I was so emotional. So I get up to meet her and I just start word vomiting, and I was like I love you, and then I was like, no, that's weird, I love your work, and she was like, no, it's fine. And I told her about the review. I was like, this was the first thing I ever posted on YouTube. Like, I don't even remember what I said. I think it's just incoherent gushing. She was so excited to hear about it. She was so supportive and kind. She was like, thank you so much for reviewing them. Like, I hope this new one is like really great for you. And then we got to take a picture. And at this point I realized I haven't eaten anything in hours. I ate a banana for breakfast. I had apples and peanut butter and then Cheetos for lunch. And I was like, oh no. So I get up to take the picture and my hand is like, and I'm like doing this. It was a hot mess, and I was like, sorry, I'm a little sugar deficient, and she was like, it's okay. So by this point my friend Mindy was completely out of the Leigh Bardugo line, and I couldn't like hop over to get in there, and she'd already gotten my book signed anyway, so I was like, that's fine. I decided to go get in the line for Clare Legrand to get the arc of Reborn signed and personalized, because that's just too cool of an opportunity to pass up. Like, I couldn't resist it, and so I went ahead and got in that line. And I looked to my right and I saw Justina Ireland's line had like 2 people in it, and I was like, oh, I gotta get Justina Ireland, because I started reading Dread Nation. I didn't get very far, and then I had to write a paper, so I had to stop. But I was like, oh my god, I have to get Justina Ireland. My friend got out of Cindy Williams Chima's lines. She got in the line for Clare Legrand, and I like reached down and I was like, hey, I have to go to the bathroom and I want to go meet Justina Ireland. And I reached down and I realized, I'm thinking back to it, I know exactly when I did it, but I grabbed The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black because I wanted to get her to sign it, but man, that line was a beast. For whatever reason, this is a tangent, but for whatever reason, they didn't issue wristbands for Holly Black's signing line, and so that thing was just like this, and I was like, not worth it. But I grabbed The Darkest Part of the Forest, and I looked down. Dread Nation is like a few shelves below it, and I was like, I have to grab Dread Nation. And then I like stopped for a second, and I was like 6:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I haven't brushed my teeth. I have to brush my teeth. And I just didn't, and then I ran and I brushed my teeth, and then by that point we had to leave, so I was like throwing my shoes on and stuff, and I left it on the shelf, and I was like, so I just decided, there was nobody in her line. I went to the bathroom. There was nobody there. They were just talking to another author, and so I went up to her and I was like, oh my god, like, I'm so sorry. I forgot your book at home, but I just want to tell you that you're awesome. And she was so excited and sweet. Like, she was so happy. She was like, oh my god, I'm glad you're loving it. Oh my god, that's so nice. And there was a bookmark, and she signed the bookmark for me instead, since I freaking forgot my copy of the book. I'm so frustrated that I forgot my copy of the book. I was like, I can't believe I did that, but I definitely did. That's me. She was absolutely so nice about it though. She gave me these like coloring sheets that had the different characters on it. Oh, she was so kind. And it's like almost 5 p.m. and my hands are like, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the Clare Legrand line because my friend Mindy was waiting for me. She had saved our spots in line because she also had the arc. Gotta like stand for like another 10 minutes, like we're almost done. And then I can like go to the concession stand and get food. And then the line like didn't move for like 10 minutes. Like it's like 4:45 at this point. I'm like, what's going on? Why haven't we moved in so long? I thought maybe it's just like a big group at the front. So another 5 minutes pass. It's like 4:50. And the line still hasn't moved. And we're starting to get kind of antsy. The person who was holding up the line finally left, and she was an adult woman. Like, she was like over the age of 30, and she had this big bag of books. I don't think they were all Clare Legrand's books, but there were just tons of them in this bag. And she just had held up the line for 10 minutes talking to the author, and I was just like, are you kidding me? That was a little stressful. So we finally get through the line, and she was so sweet. Like, she loved my friend's name. She's like, oh, my mom has that name. And she signed the book and was talking to us about it really quickly. And then we moved because the girl behind us was trying to get into the Cassandra Clare line, and she was like, and then I like beelined for the concession stand, and they had like almost no food left. So I bought 2 bags of peanut M&Ms, and that was dinner. So, lessons from the book convention. Always get there early. I did that one right. Make a checklist of the books that you specifically want to bring, and then just pack them all the night before. Like, I was like, okay, I had like put some in my backpack, and then I was like, okay, I'll just grab like The Darkest Part of the Forest and Dread Nation in the morning. And I got The Darkest Part of the Forest, and I didn't get Dread Nation. Definitely don't give yourself anything to do in the morning, because you're not going to do it. And eat. Like, I just didn't think about food for the entire day. I mean, I left an hour for lunch, and that line took forever, but like, just bring food. Like, eat something substantial, because I was so close to passing out at the end of the day. I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to drive home like this. Definitely gotta keep energy up. It's a stressful situation. Like, it's good stress, right? It's so much fun. It was definitely worth it, but my anxiety was like, whew, she was high. So definitely eat, keep energy up throughout the rest of the day. So those were my fun experiences with the author at the North Texas Teen Book Festival, and now I'm just going to go through the books that I got and the books that I got signed and talk about them really quickly because I'm excited. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the books that I got signed. I brought my copies of An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night. Like I said, Sublots I Hear was really sweet, and my friend Mindy got me my copy of The Language of Thorns signed for me as well, so that's really exciting. I do wish I had gotten to meet Leigh Bardugo, but at that point there was just like, the option really wasn't there because we were so close on time. And then here's the stuff that Justina Ireland so kindly gave me because I forgot my copy of her book. Here are the 2 character cards. Here are everything, so that's really sweet, and I'm definitely going to be coloring these while I'm reading. Like, I think that would be a really nice experience to like read for a little bit and then color the character for a little bit. Next, I want to talk about the 2 books that I actually picked up at the festival. I picked up a copy of the Mortal Instruments graphic novel for my friend, but I've already given it to them, so like but for me, I got 2 books. The first one is Wonder Woman Warbringer by Leigh Bardugo. This is also signed. This is a book that I was really wanting to read anyway, and I just never got around to picking it up from the bookstores, so definitely had to grab it here. And the signing, oh, it's signed somewhere. There was a sticker on it. Oh my god! Okay, so the sticker, I literally peeled the sticker off of it and it said signed. I literally peeled the sticker off of it and it said signed edition, but there's no signature in it. That's okay. Oh my god, we're just falling to pieces today. That's okay, because now I have a book to bring her to get signed. That's disappointing though. Dang, okay. Well, I got Wonder Woman Warbringer, and I am really excited to read this. I loved the Wonder Woman film, and I love Leigh Bardugo, so I don't think that I could really go wrong at this point. And like I said, I got a copy of the 10th anniversary edition of City of Bones so that I could qualify for Cassandra Clare's signing line, and I started reading it. I have not read this book, like this particular one, since my freshman year of high school. It has been 6 years, I think, almost 6 years. I read it before the movie came out. I read it a long time before the movie came out. It's been like 6 or 7 years since I have read this book. It took me so long to get through this series. I had this thing where I would read a Cassandra Clare book and be obsessed with it, and then I would put it down, and it's not that I wasn't interested in continuing the series, because I did want to continue in the series, but for some reason, I don't know if maybe it was because there were just so many unread books, but I would put the book down and I would just like not care to pick it back up again. But I'm going back through and rereading this for the first time since my freshman year of high school, and I was kind of nervous. I thought I wouldn't like it, but she said that in one of the panels, I think the one with Leigh Bardugo, that she was actually able to go through and update the language. She was able to, you know, update the technology that the mundanes have, update some of the phrases and things that are said in the book. And I don't even remember what was changed because it's been so long since I read it, but I definitely am enjoying it. Like, you read books in early high school and then you get to college and you're like, that was a great book, but I don't think I'm ever gonna touch it again. And I know there's a lot of people who've been coming out now who have read City of Bones for the first time, and they're like, it's definitely a product of its time, but I'm really loving it again. And obviously I do have an attachment to the series, but like, it's so nice. I finished City of Heavenly Fire because I read them in publication order, so I had to read The Infernal Devices also, and I finished the City of Heavenly Fire last summer, so like I'm finally coming full circle again. I finally have that experience, and it's really awesome to have again. And the last thing that I want to talk about are the ARCs that I received while at the North Texas Teen Book Fair, because I've never gotten an ARC before and I'm really excited. I plan on reading and reviewing 3 of the 4 of these, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the first one that I got was A Light Too Bright by Samuel Miller. This comes out in May 2018. It doesn't have a specific date, but it comes out in May. Our main character in this book's name is Arthur. His grandfather was an incredibly famous author who wrote a cult classic book, and he had Alzheimer's. He died, and Arthur is staying with his aunt and uncle, and he finds a journal of his grandfather's with some suspicious clues. And so to cope with his own demons and also to sort of find answers for his grandfather's death, he embarks on a cross-country train ride that I think goes a little crazy. As Arthur gets closer to the real story, his journey is complicated by a shaky alliance with a girl who's keeping secrets of her own, and by escalating run-ins with a dangerous Pullman fan base. Arthur discovers he's not the only one chasing the truth, and there's an even greater story to his grandfather's life. I have not heard anything about this. This was at the Epic Reads booth, and it was like very early. I think it was like 9:30 in the morning, and we were in line for it, and they gave us like a card, and they were like, you have to pick one of these books, and we were like, I don't know. And so I just grabbed this one at random. I was just like, yeah, that one sounds cool, and it really does. So I'm excited to read this and review it for you guys. The next one we got from hanging around the Penguin Teen booth. There were a couple of like challenges, like if you were subscribed to their newsletter you could get a free ARC, and I was like, oh, that's awesome, because I am, and I couldn't find the email, and I realized I was subscribed to Penguin, and I was like, crap, you know, that's not good. And so I was like, hey, I just subscribed to the Penguin Teen. It was just the normal Penguin newsletter, but here, look, I subscribed. And she's like, oh my god, we just ran out of ARCs. And I was like, and then later in the day they were running, like, if you put your email into the machine and subscribed, then they would give you a free ARC. And so I wanted to get in it, and then that line was closed. She was like, we're not gonna have ARCs. And then they opened it up again. They were like, hey, come back. But the ARC that I had wanted, it had a really cool cover, and I think it was more like my age group. It was a young adult book. They had run out of that one, and I didn't realize that till we get up to the front. And so I put my email in again, and they were like, here, here's your ARC. And so I got, so it's called She Loves You by Anne Hood, and it's about a girl in the 1960s who has a Beatles fan club. And I guess one day they decided they want to change their circumstances, or maybe they just want an adventure, and they decide to go try to hunt down and meet Paul McCartney. It's definitely middle grade. It's like definitely, and then like the print is like very, very big, and I don't dislike the Beatles, but my family's from the South, so we're Elvis people, and so like I don't know if I'm actually going to read this. I mean, I imagine I might. I don't think it would be very difficult. There are aspects about this that I think would be really cool. I think I might actually give it to my younger sister, but it's definitely an interesting premise, and I think I might start it at least. The next one is also on sale in May 2018 and was also from the Penguin Teen booth. We were sort of hanging around trying to like, because we kept missing their giveaways, and we were like, oh my god. And I don't know if they got to recognize us or if the woman just was nice, but we saw this book. They had their like the background of their booth, they had different books that were coming out, all of the booths did. We saw this one and we were like, both of us were looking at it, we were like, oh my god. There was a couple of us, there was a couple of books on there when we were like, I want it. And we happened to see one of those covers, like they had the box open and we were like, oh my god, like those are the actual arcs of that book that we've been gushing about every time we pass the Penguin Teen booth. And so we went up to the woman who was working the booth and we were like, hey, like, are you guys doing a giveaway for that arc later in the day that we should like plan to come back for? And she just sort of looked at us and she was like, I think I was holding the middle grade book too, and she was like, do you guys just want the arc? And we were like, yes. So she just gave us the arc. It was really cool. We just asked if there was a giveaway and she was like, just take it. And that book is The Smoke Thieves by Sally Green. I did not realize that Sally Green was the author of this. I have not read Sally Green's Half Bad series. I did start it as a library book because the premise looked cool, but then the entire thing was written in like, I think second person. The one where it's like, you go to the store, you do this, you are running, you are sweating, you are, and it was like, that's like interesting for a page, but it was like the whole like beginning of the book and it really put me off of it, and so I just returned it. Like, I know that the book does not continue that way, but I was like, and I didn't want to keep going in it. But I also heard that it did the kill your gaze trope. I don't know how accurate that is. Like I said, I haven't read it, but I have heard that complaint, so like I'm cautiously optimistic going into this book. Like, I definitely want it. It's supposed to be like a young adult Game of Thrones style thing, and it's like, it's big, so it's not like Fallen Kingdoms, which also claimed to be a young adult Game of Thrones and then was like not my favorite. So I'm really hoping that this lives up to that hype because I want it to live up to that hype. So like I said, cautiously optimistic, and we'll also be reviewing this around the time of its publication. And the last one I have already mentioned, but I'm just too excited about it, and that is Reborn by Clare Legrand. Like, this is a beautiful arc. Like, the whole thing, this comes out May 22nd, 2018. Like, oh, beautiful. I'm so excited about it. So this is definitely my most excited grab from the North Texas Teen Book Fair. Very excited about it, very excited to read it. I've already started it, but no spoilers. So that was my very first experience at a book convention. I can definitely say that I'm glad that I started small, because I did start small. It was comparatively small book convention, but it was definitely such an amazing experience, and I'm really excited to go to other book conventions if I can find any. I had such a great time and just like loved my whole time at the festival and can't wait to do it again. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!